the European Union always has targeted big tech, but we seem to be at a moment in Brussels. There's definitely a lot of political will to get these new rules of the internet going. There's a feeling here among regulators and among just people in the industry, rivals to Google and Facebook and others, that the current system that we have moves too slowly. And by the time you see a case investigation, an antitrust investigation into Facebook or Google, it's already too late for people who are operating in that space. So the story that we have now is that Brussels is coming up with this, what we call a hit list of up to 20 large internet companies, very, very likely to include Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. So it's going to be a list of up to 20 companies, and it's going to be just merely by the size of, the Silicon Valley giants, heavily weighted on US companies that some argue have become too big to care.
Okay, so in that kind of a scenario, how exactly does this kind of a campaign resonate with the population or the citizenry in Europe? Do you think that the regulators are doing this because there is a populist outcry because of these types of things, or just because of these strict numbers around market dominance or possibly monopolistic behavior?
It's a combination of concerns about monopolistic behavior, but there is definitely a populist sentiment that these companies just have become too big and too present in every single bit of our lives. Like if you just think about your morning today, you were checking the news on your smartphone. It's likely that if you pick up your phone right now, you'll see a lot of these companies that are being targeted by the EU. The feeling here is that these corporations pay little tax, that they have become very invasive, if you think about scandals like Cambridge Analytica, and essentially, as I said, that they have become too big to care and that they need to be reined in, because by the time these investigations see through the whole lifespan, for instance, there's a Google shopping case here in the EU that has been going on for a good part of a decade, and rivals to Google argue that it's just simply not enough. So essentially, this is a new rule book of do's and don'ts of what companies, large platforms, are expected to do. It is singling out big tech that has become too present, too prominent in our lives. And, just like the banking system or any other sector, it needs to be regulated more.
Javier, speaking of singling out, there's a thought right now that if you pursue these types of policies in this current U.S. administration, you will get a response somewhat in kind. Do you feel as though, or is there any context around whether or not the U.S. government might retaliate in some way against European interests because of Europeans targeting U.S. companies, even though we know our own Congress here in America is targeting big tech itself?
Yes, this has led to quite a number of people in the Brussels bubble, but beyond, to raise concerns that the U.S. administration may feel targeted, and that, obviously this list, not to over-exaggerate, will have other companies that may be Chinese or European, but definitely from my conversations here in Brussels, the target is these big corporations in the U.S. So the concern is that there might be some sort of retaliation. Obviously, this regulation is not going to be ready in the next few days or weeks, and we'll have to see what happens after the U.S. election. That may shift a bit the dynamics, but even with the Biden presidency, there's a risk that this might escalate into some sort of transatlantic fight.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.